Welcome back. The day is getting late, so the light is getting low. You can't see all of my tabletop here, my workspace, but here's an item. So a lot of what I say doesn't matter a whole lot. A lot of what this is about right now is really noticing what your eyes are seeing and working with me to get what clay is all about. So I showed you some plant items, and we'll get to that later. I'll show you a few pieces. Well, no, let's go back. So remember the clay that we mixed up in the bowl. We mixed the clay up in the bowl, and I added too much water, so I spread it out on this chunk of wood, and it's drying nicely, and I'll have to scrape that off in a couple hours or so. Depends on the weather and how fast things dry out. Today has been a very drying day. It's dried out all of these pieces here that I've made. They're pretty much all the way dry. And here's an example of a few things that you can make. So, yeah, we'll get to more of that later as well. And then, if you remember the other bit of clay we mixed up, it was a little more chunky, but we mixed it up in this container. And I've worked it a bunch. Basically, I've done a bunch of this, where I'm rolling it and squashing it and rolling it again. And we've got it into a nice, really nice, smooth ball here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this canvas. Canvas is a really helpful tool. And I'm just gonna plop it down in the middle, kind of squash it down a little bit, and see, it doesn't stick to the canvas so fast. And then I'm gonna take this piece of fabric. This is just some fabric I found lying around. It was a pillowcase, so I'm gonna put a piece of fabric over that, and then I'm gonna take this. See, I have this rolling stone. You could do this with a rolling pin, but I'm gonna really work to push this clay and flatten it into a slab. Let's see how we're doing. There's some wrinkles from this fabric in there. The canvas is nice and pretty smooth, and I'm gonna go for a little flatter than that. And remember, so again, you could do this with a rolling pin. From here on out, I'm just gonna use my palm to roll it. And what I hope to make out of this is a bell. So I need a top. I'll need a top for the bell. Well, okay, so I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm just gonna cut into it, just like that. And then I'm gonna peel it up. And I'm gonna smooth this edge now, so it's nice and smoothish. And this is the nicer side, so this will be out. And oh, remember the plants? So here's what I had in mind for the plants. is I'm going to take a plant like this and squash it in. Press nice and firm. Lift that back up. And I'm just going to leave it in there. And roll this. There's an airplane going on overhead. I'm sure you can hear that. Bring it in on the top a little bit so it's got a little bit of a cone shape. And this clay is nice and soft, so I'm just gonna press it together. It's really soft clay. And so there's the first part of our bell. And I'm gonna peel this up, and I don't need so much. I'm gonna make a sort of cap for it. And again, yeah. And actually, I'm gonna start over because I know I can make something nicer. So start over. I'm just gonna roll it up, smush it together. And I'm gonna make a nice even ball and then make a little tiny pinch pot. So you could start with the larger ball of clay and do what I'm doing and squeeze it and press it and shape it so it turns into like a little cup. And so that's gonna be the top of our bell. And because bells need a hole in the middle, well, let's see, I'm gonna get this on first. I really like how this has a nice kind of round edge. You get a pencil, because we gotta be able to get a string through there when we're all done. So there's our little hole. Just kind of smeared the clay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and smear that on. It's really sticky, so I can just kind of smear that on. If it was drier clay that we were working with, there's many ways to join clay. So there we have a basic little bell. The easiest things to make are like these little coins. So here's one that's a heart, and yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause. One really simple thing you can do, another one of the really simple things you can do is start out with a nice ball of clay and make an impression of something. So I'm gonna break this ball in half and roll it up again so it's nice and smooth, like that. And I'm gonna pick a leaf. I harvested a few leaves from the yard here. And I'm just gonna set that down, and I'm gonna set my ball right on it. And I'm gonna press it in. Just squish it on down. Oh, maybe I over squished because I got lots of cracks. You see all those cracks? So I'm gonna say I over squished that, and I'm gonna do another one with this other little ball that I have here. And I think I'll wet it a little bit. Let's get a little water on it. And kind of work that. It's super slippery right now, but it's absorbing that little bit of water. I'm gonna pick another leaf to make an impression of. I really like that last one. I'll do something simpler this time. Well, so here's the whole leaf, and I'm gonna take just the little tip of it. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a stem. I'm gonna pinch that with my finger, like that, with my fingernail, actually. And this ball's still really slippery. If you roll a slippery ball on the canvas, it'll dry it off. And hopefully we'll get less cracking this time. These leaves are a little curled, so I'm gonna open them a little bit. Just gonna set the ball right on top of them and smush. I'm gonna not smush so as hard, and continue kind of doing little smushes, smush, 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 little smushes. It's sticking because it's wet. Let's see how that's embedded in there. That seems pretty good. And you can roll the edges, and you see how there's some cracks in there if you just kind of, well, you can also take like a spoon and do little taps to kind of close those cracks up. And so there you have it. I'm gonna do a show and tell here of some of the kinds of things that you could make. Here's some coin type of pieces I've made and you could make. This has a little tiny feather that's been pressed into it, and it's gonna turn out so interesting. Here's another thing. This I made about 4 days ago, and it's been slowly drying. This little teacup. And here's a larger medallion that I made. This is another plant pressing. You can see some of the bits of plant are still in there. This one I had a little trouble drying. There's a crack. See that crack? It's because the inside dried slower than the outside. And here's an example plant pressing that I did, and it's fresh. I've rolled out a few balls here. And so remember, you start with a nice little ball, and then you can squish it into a flat disc. And you can write things on there. You can draw different things on there. You could turn it into a bead. So here's, and it's really fun to do different textures. So with my soft clay and this nut, I'm just gonna roll it around, and that makes kind of an interesting shape. Do it again on. And you know, if something doesn't work out, just start over. Just roll it back up into a ball. Here's a little bigger ball. Make a bigger disc. And here's another thing you could make impressions with. A simple screw. You're gonna go press. Oh. Now here's another thing you can do. This is a much larger ball. I'm gonna press my thumbs into it and just keep turning it and working it. And what you can see, it's starting to crack a little bit on the edges, but you can push that back together and you can make what they call a little pinch pot. See, I'm continuing to work in the bottom and up to the top. And I'll just go until I don't want it to be any thinner. And then I'll have a little bowl or cup. Continuing with this little bowl, I'm just gonna make it a little bit thinner. There at the bottom. It's not cracking much at all, so I can keep working that. And keep rotating it and working towards the edge of it, towards the top. And you can see there's some cracking in there, but I'll show you how you can take that out later. So yeah, and just kind of pressing on the top edge to make it smooth. It's nice when things are smooth.